Hi, I'm Xander. We're here for Elden 3, and we're here to talk to Chris from Introversion Software about Prison Architect. So, would you like to tell us a little bit about the game?
Yeah, sure. Well, Prison Architect is kind of a prison building management game in which you have to construct a maximum security prison from nothing, and deal with the fact that your prison slowly becomes populated with more and more dangerous individuals who all want to take a piece out of it.
Okay.
And it's a very interesting morality issue about how you actually deal with the prisoners who are inside the walls of this building that you've built.
It's a very, very interesting concept. Something like Roller Coaster Tycoon taking on a evil, sadistic twist.
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, it's not meant to be sadistic. It's meant to put in front of you the issues that a genuine prison construction team would have facing them. Like a warden, for example. Because it is a bit of it is a difficult subject, prisons. It's not as easy as like dealing with demons and Dungeon Keeper or something.
Yeah, it's not as black and white.
Yeah, it's not as black and white, quite specifically. But I think that there's a lot of range in the sort of morality of how you deal with a prison, because there's various different options, right? So, whether you deal with prisoners in a nice way or whether you deal with them in a nasty way is kind of up to the player.
Okay, and what kind of effects would that have on the game? So if I'm the evil warden and I just lock everybody in solitary and beat them within an inch of their life if they step out of line, what kind of consequences is that going to have?
Well, that is one way to play the game. You can build an extreme lockdown right-wing hellhole of a prison, basically, like a maximum security hellhole where nobody ever sees daylight. And the end result of it is that you'll have... It becomes kind of like a tinderbox, right? It's like, if everybody's treated that way, it'll remain very secure for a long time, until the point when you lose control of things slightly, at which point you'll have a full-scale riot on your hands because everything will kind of bust
Everybody's been waiting to get a piece of you.
The tension level has been building up so much.
Okay.
And you get quite serious if you lock people up in confinement for a long time. You get quite serious psychological problems forming as well as a direct result.
So they have complex psychological profiles, each of the prisoners?
Yeah, they definitely do, yeah. It's based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Each prisoner has a hierarchy of needs internally, and every prisoner has a slightly different set of needs. And so some prisoners, for example, so these guys, their overwhelming need at the moment is to be asleep, and that's quite a simple example. But so the Maslow's hierarchy of needs basically states that people will deal with their most base level needs first, such as sleep and water and food and so on. And then when those are dealt with, they'll deal with higher level needs, such as, these guys, for example, who are running around here, are actually exercising, right?
Exercise and socialising.
They're getting a bit of outdoor exercise. And then once that level's dealt with, it goes up another level of the hierarchy, and you get to kind of social needs and needs of friendship and needs of respect and so on. And that's the kind of psychological model that underpins the prisoners within your prison.
So you've got to very carefully balance the needs of the prisoners in order to keep everything under control.
Yeah, exactly. And you can't actually satisfy all the needs of your prisoners, because a very common need amongst your prisoners is the need and desire for freedom.
Kind of counter to the
Which
whole
is not
being
a need
imprisoned.
that you'll never really be able to satisfy. And obviously a lot of people that are in your prison, they may be quite violent people. They may have committed quite violent crimes. And so they may rebel against the fact that they're being locked up.
Are we given detail as what the crimes committed by the prisoners
yes,
are? Are they built up?
Yeah, not in this level, but in the later levels. If you, every prisoner has a rap sheet that you can bring up, and it's their criminal history and the reasons why they've been arrested and the reasons why they're in jail, and the crimes that they've already committed. And implicit in that rap sheet is kind of their psychological makeup, whether they're a violent individual or whether they're a sneaky individual.
Right.
Or whether they're
just
somebody in the wrong place at the wrong time kind of individual.
So it gives you a bit of an insight as to how you need to treat this prisoner particularly.
And once you hire a warden, and you can start then working on the kind of bureaucracy that enables you to hire other administrators at your jail. And one of the administrators that you can hire is a psychologist, a prison psychologist.
Right.
And if you have a prison psychologist, you will start to unlock more detailed information on what makes the individual prisoners tick.
Right, so you can even better control their environment.
And once you know more about what's making the prisoners tick, you can see them here all eating. Once you know more about what makes them tick, you can better tailor your jail to satisfy them. So actually, you can actually tell that a lot of prisoners here are showing up as bored at the moment, or some of them are showing up as homesick, for example. And you get like this overview of what's going on in their heads. So, for example, if you get a lot of prisoners that are starting to show up as homesick and are starting to get quite depressed and withdrawn as a result, you can start to investigate building, firstly, like telephones and things at telephone banks in your prison.
So it'll allow communication.
To get them phone home, and then after that, visitation rooms so that their relatives can actually come and see them. And you can ultimately deal with that psychological need. So you don't necessarily pick like one prisoner and deal with his needs.
You'd pick
you're kind of
overall.
You're trying to deal with the whole prison.
Yeah.
You might have 100 prisoners. So you
and
kind
that
of
really does highlight the problem of how do you deal with an
you've
individual.
You've got limited resources,
Yeah.
and you have to do your best to deal with their needs, and you can't deal with you can't deal with everyone, right? Yeah.
So how would we get to know the individuals? How would we?
Well, in the open sandbox, you know the individuals less. You tend to deal with them more en masse.
Right.
You tend to deal with them more like, my prisoners are generally very bored. I need to do something about that. This is actually a level from the story, and the story kind of introduces you to the game and some characters that are in the game, because we knew that we were going to have to introduce people to prisons and the concept of prisons by introducing them to prisoners and characters. Because all the best films about prisons are actually about the prisoners.
Yeah.
And the prisoners are the main characters. So in this particular level, this character down here, who's next to a priest, is actually scheduled. He's on death row, basically, he's been scheduled to be executed for a double premeditated murder. And this is straight into the game.
That's quite a dark twist.
You're dealing with quite a dark issue, right? Which is that you've been called in as a private industry, right? You've been called in to build an execution facility for this prisoner. Right? Now, you're not the warden of the prison, and you haven't sentenced him in any way, but you still need to deal with the fact that this prison doesn't yet have the capability to deal with him.
So you've been contracted in, come in, build a kill room.
Basically that, yeah, exactly. And it's actually really interesting watching people dealing with that, because on a mechanics point of view, it's quite gamey, right? You're laying out your cell, you're laying out your execution room. You can do a better or worse job of it, and you get various instructions about how you might improve your facilities. But you're also wrestling with this kind of morality issue, right? Do you want to be the person that's doing all this? Right? Can you actually separate yourself? Can you actually separate yourself from the morality of what you're doing? You know, because you're not the one that's ultimately going to pull the lever, right? You're just fulfilling a contract.
You're just the guy
different.
that sends him, but you've still had
But
quite a big hand in there. This wouldn't happen
You've had a big
if you
hand
hadn't
in it,
have.
but it is different from building like a canteen.
Yeah.
It has a different feel to it.
Yeah, you're there rather than providing a need, you're providing an end, as it were.
Yeah.
So how long are we looking at before we're going to see?
We're hoping to do a paid alpha of this game this year.
Excellent.
So the basic way that'll work is you'll pre-order the game and get immediate access to the alpha version of the game as we have it.
Excellent.
So you'll be able to play this level and maybe one or two others.
So it's going to be digital distribution?
Yeah, all digital distribution. You'll be able to try the first levels, try the sandbox. The open sandbox, you can just build whatever you want. You can build any type of prison you want to build.
Excellent. So you just have a play, learn how the game works.
Go nuts, basically, yeah. And hopefully, we're hoping to have a process of seeing the game develop through the alpha, get people's feedback, get people's impressions of what they like and what they don't like, and have the game develop while people are actually playing it.
Yeah, see where it's really hitting the right notes with the players.
Exactly that.
I'm quite a fan of the stills, as it were, rather than movies for communicating with. This
is kind of the story thing. We have there's an artist called Ryan Sumo that we hired, and he previously did all the artwork for Space Chem. And I saw Space Chem, and I really loved the artwork, and I wanted him to get in and do the artwork for us for the game. And it turns out that he was actually also a very, very good character artist. So he did all the game graphics, which are kind of these nice light sprites. But he also did all of the Polaroids, which have got a much more sort of gritty, slightly more real tone to them.
That's what I was going to say. They're almost cartoony for such a serious issue being dealt with.
And we found it actually works quite well. It's quite a potent mix. The mix of like the cartoon graphics that you see in these scenes. So this is the backstory of the character who's on death row, and the crime that he committed that ultimately landed him on death row. because we wanted to. It's not just that you're building facilities. We
It's
actually
trying
want
to
to tell
make
the
that
story
emotional
about
connection.
why he's ended up there, right, and why it might be the right thing or might not be the right thing.
It really make you think about what's actually going on in there, rather than
Exactly.
just playing the game for the numbers.
Yeah.
A lot of gamers tend to do these days. They mean
exactly.
take the best approach, the most efficient, rather than thinking about what they're actually
And
doing.
it's such an emotive issue that I don't think you can make it just an abstract game.
Yeah.
We knew we really wanted to have actual characters, and we wanted to draw out. So here we've got that kind of nice mixture of the nice cute sprites and the nice harder graphics, and it just draws in the seriousness of what you're actually doing. Right?
Yeah,
you
really
are
makes
playing a
them think.
management game about prisons, but you're also dealing with real characters.
You're also sending people to their deaths.
Yeah.
And on that note, I'm going to have to wrap it up. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much for showing us around
you.
what promises to be a very interesting and very different game.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Chris from Introversion Gaming.